Hello Math 8. We are starting your lesson watching this video. I'm also going to attach a couple other places where you can look at videos that you can look at in class. We're going to be working with integers and absolute value. You're going to notice in the green packet we gave you that it has integers on the top, and it says right below integers it has lesson 2.1. If we are looking at that, what we actually want to have is we need you to add in, if you notice right at the top, this word real numbers. Real numbers was not part of your notes, and I'm going to have you add that on. So as you're taking a look at that, we're going to add on real numbers. Now, what are real numbers, integers, absolute value, and opposite? When you get to this next page, if you need to pause the video at any time to write this down, please feel free. Integers are numbers that consist of negative whole numbers, zero, positive whole numbers. So when you're thinking of your integers, this is your set going from -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3. And we might put dots on both ends of this to show that it continues in both directions. Another way we might write it, and sometimes some people prefer this, is to start with 0, 1, -1, 2, -2. So when you're listing the set of integers, either one of these two would be fine. We don't have in your notes negative integers, but those would be our integers less than 0. Positive, greater than 0. Absolute value, what it means, it's the distance between a number and 0 on a number line. When you think of this, this is how far away. Remember, distance is usually always a positive number. So the symbol that we use, and you're going to put down this symbol, the symbol are these two straight lines that you're going to see. And when we read those two straight lines, we read them as the absolute value. So example is, we are looking at the absolute value of 4 and the absolute value of -4. And what's nice about both of these is that they are both actually equal to 4 because they are both 4 units away from 0. When we talk about opposites, it's two numbers that have the same distance from 0 on a number line. When we talk about they're on opposite sides of 0, if you think of opposites, they are going to have the same absolute value. So the opposites have the same absolute value. And if you look at the example we just did above, you're going to see that 4 and -4 have the same absolute value. Again, if you need to pause this to write down the vocabulary in your notes, please do so. This is just another picture to show you negative integers, and actually all negative real numbers are going to be to the left. Positive integers are going to be to the right. If we were looking at this, I guess the one thing we didn't fill in was your real numbers. What are the real numbers? They are every number on the number line. So please make sure you put that down. This is my symbol for number. You want to put both the symbol and the words behind it. Every number on the number line. So when you are looking at these, every number on our number line as we look at that. As we take a look at looking at absolute value, we talked about the absolute value is the distance from a number, and it's always the distance from 0. So again, as you read through these, here's a couple more examples for you to take a look at. What are the opposites? Again, they have the same absolute value but different signs. -2 and 2 are considered opposites. Opposites are always going to add to 0. The next thing you're going to see in your note packet is if you turn to page 3. On page 3, as you look at this, you're going to see absolute value and opposites are not the same. What I'd have you do is if we think about a number line and put 0, and on your number line, if you go at least maybe 5, 6, 7, 8, put your tick marks down, +1, 2, 3, and put your numbers down, and the same to the left of 0. Again, if you want to put -2, -4, writing in all of your numbers so that you have those. Now, as we take a look at your notes, what we want to do is we want to look at, using our two definitions, our guided practice. If we're given this number, what is the absolute value and the opposite? I'm going to suggest that you maybe pause your video at this point for just a minute. Try and fill these in, and then you're going to see me giving you the answers and going through it. But at this point, you should just hit pause and try and fill in your notes. Given number of 8, the absolute value, 8. The opposite, -8. -6. The absolute value of that is going to be 6. It's 6 units from 0. The opposite is also going to be, in this case, they were both the same. 0's absolute value is 0. Its opposite, there really is no opposite of 0. So I'm going to put none. If you told me 0 at this point, I would probably count that correct because they have to add to 0. Absolute value of 5 is going to be 5 units away. Opposite is -5. Absolute value of -4. Hopefully, if you haven't paused it yet, you should pause it and try these last 3 on your own before I put the answers up. So as you can see how opposites and absolute value. Tomorrow in class, when we look at this lesson, you are going to see how we use these numbers to help us as we start doing addition and subtraction with integers. Now when you take a look at integers, we also are going to be comparing them in your homework. So if these are the daily low temperatures for 5 days, maybe January, could be December, hopefully not ever June, right? Monday through Friday temperatures. If we were going to list these temperatures and they asked us to tell us which day had the lowest temperature, on this one our lowest temperature should be the -8. So our answer would be, if we were filling that in, our answer would be on Thursday, and the reason because it's -8. If we are comparing the numbers, what we can say is that -8 is less than -4. But we can say that -1 is greater than -8. So the less than and greater than come in your homework as we are working with those. It says, remember, negative integers lie to the left and positive to the right. What I'm going to have you do right now is just kind of take a look at these two, and if you were going to place the numbers in order, if you were going to write these numbers in order, what would they be? So just pause the video for 1 minute. If it helps you to plot the points, so we're going to plot -10, we're going to plot +7, -5, and then we can put them in order. If it helps you to plot the points first, do that if it helps you. If you can look at the number line and say, you know what, I know from least to greatest it's going to be -10, -5, -2, 7, not 6, sorry about that, 7, and 9. You could simply write them out. We're not going to do the second example, but in your homework you will be asked to do that. So here you can see both the number lines and the numbers. Again, just a little more practice with opposites. The opposite of 9 would be -9. The opposite of -14 would be 14. Here's where we sometimes get a little tricky. The opposite of the absolute value of -8. Well, what is the absolute value of -8? It is 8 units away. So the opposite of that is going to be, oh, my eraser isn't working on me here. The opposite is -8. Sometimes you will see this answer written like this. The opposite of -8 will give you a minus sign, and then you'll see the absolute value of -8. That's what this means. This negative out in front doesn't mean negative. It's interpreting to be the opposite. So you kind of got to be careful with that. Now, in your guided practice at the bottom of page 3, these are the 5 problems that I would like you to, or 6 problems, excuse me, that I'd like you to take a look at. You're going to write the opposite and the absolute value of each of these. So right now, on the bottom of your note guide, in that page 3, you're going to put the letter A, write -1. Put 2 blanks behind it. On those 2 blanks, you're first going to tell me the opposite, and the second blank is going to be absolute value. So please do both of those right now. Pause the video, and then I'm going to show you again. If we're doing opposite of -1, we should have 1. The absolute value is going to be 1. Try the next ones. We're going to check those in class. Letter E, absolute value of -10. First I might think, what is that? It is 10. Plus the absolute value of -4 is 4. It gives me 14. Again, if you need to pause this and rewind and look at some of the other ones, do that. What is this negative out in front telling us in letter F? It's saying the opposite of absolute value of -3. Well, the opposite, first off, the absolute value of -3 is 3. The opposite of that is -3. So negative 3 plus the absolute value of negative 3 is 3. Negative 3 plus 3, 0. Again, we'll check those other guided practice tomorrow in class. Now, at this point, you are going to be ready to begin. Whoops, I don't know where that went. As you take a look at this tomorrow in class, you're going to be ready to work in your homework. You've filled your notes in. You should have that filled in. If when you come to class, you should have that page 3 totally filled in and that first page of notes. Hope you enjoyed this and hope it helps you to learn mathematics a little better.